Well, hello. It's a good evening in Australia, and it's a good morning in the UK. We're co-host Andrena Forrest is operating from, so that's the beauty of technology these days. So I'll throw us back to Andrena as she'll do the introductions to our guest, who, by the way, is living in Australia.
Hi, everybody, and welcome and for another weekly episode of Dreaming the New Dream. Today, it's the 4th of May, 2023, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Jannine Umana from Australia, who I met, it must have been about 2010, 2011, I think, when I first met you. I know it was a long, long time ago. And our pathways have suddenly come back together again after such a long time. And so we had a lovely chat a couple of weeks ago, and anyway, here we are now. So it's with pleasure I say once again, welcome Jannine, and thank you for agreeing to be a guest on our show.
Thank you, Andrena. Thanks for having me, both of you. So it's a pleasure to be here. Seems great that we can do this from England and Australia, all over the world. It's rather wonderful.
Yeah, technology's moved on mega times.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you've been a teacher for many years, and you do healing work. You do many modalities. So can we start from the very beginning? I know you were born in Melbourne, Australia. So would you like to share the steps of how your path has unfolded along the way to where you are now, and all the different workshops and courses and the different ways that you're helping people?
Sure, Andrena. It's a long time. Oh, gosh. Well, let me say, I was probably always different.
Really?
I was, yeah. Yes. I was always kind of forward thinking and always outside the square, outside the box. I was reading vampire books in the Catholic ladies' school at high school.
That's different.
I don't think they knew they were there, but I read them and scared the hell out of myself. But it was before that too, even before that, I never, I went to Catholic school. I was brought up that way. Dad's Italian, and we went to school in Melbourne. I was brought up right in Melbourne in the city. And, I was just very much a sports person. So I was always playing sport. I was, roller skating, not even blading, roller skating. And when I was about 12, I always used to think that, going to church every Sunday, and this is nothing against people that go to church. I think church is great for some people. But I couldn't understand how, as a child, and this is probably just what they taught back then, but if you did the wrong thing, this God person would put you in hell, and burn you in fires. And I thought that was pretty freaky. So at 12, I decided I wouldn't go there anymore. I didn't like it. And you can imagine what a Italian dad, Catholic, said. And I got into a bit of trouble for a bit. But I didn't go anymore. I said I still believed in God, but I just wasn't sure that that was the one I wanted to believe in, that was, able to put me into hell and brimstone when I was only a kid. And anyway, I grew up a little bit more. We moved out of Melbourne itself and out a little bit more into the suburbs. And I raced. I loved swimming. So I started racing. And one day, I didn't like breaststroke, like I love backstroke and freestyle and butterfly, and I never liked breaststroke. And the coach wanted us to do 1,000 meters. And I'm like, no way, And then he said, we're short of a teacher, the swimming teaching. Would anyone like to learn? And I put my hand up and said, yeah, me, I'd like to learn that. And seriously, it was just to get out of doing the breaststroke, lots of things like that kind of happened. So I started, I learned there, and 22 years later, when I was 32, I was still doing it, so it became my career. I had clubs and things. But then I started to notice other things, like I used to coach triathletes, and I watched people's brains and how they worked, even though I was young and, there wasn't much internet on, because I'm 64 now. And I started noticing that kids, you know, that had been natural swimmers or natural sports people, when they got to around the age between 12 and 15, something else took over. And so the ones that were natural and that were winning when they were kids, all of a sudden weren't winning anymore. And I kind of started studying that. And I realized that something else kicks in, and it's determination. Okay. And I wanted to know where that came from and how that worked and how that, you know, changed. And I found kinesiology, you know, muscle testing, where you test with muscles. Yeah. And that was a long, remember, that was like 30. I was 30 when I did it. So I must have taught for another few years. And so that was 34 years ago. And it was actually called Touch for Health. In fact, just over there, I've still got the book on the bookshelf that I originally learnt from. And it absolutely fascinated me how the mind and the body connection was working. And so I used to do fun things like switch off the I used to train triathletes, and I used to switch off the muscles so that they were like, you know, 4 seconds behind the other one because they couldn't get their arms going. They thought that was a good fun trick when we'd race and things like, just silly things. But it really got me going. And then I don't know, I just got quite alternative after that. I did more mainstream things because I came from a sports background, so I wasn't really into intuition or anything like that, although I realized later that I'd always used it. You know, like when I met someone, I would know instantly whether I was going to get on with them or not, instantly. And if I went against that, it always turned out not good. And so there was lots of other things where I just kind of knew things. I guess I kind of knew what people were thinking, but I didn't realize it at the time, you know. And then I studied a few different things. Oh gosh, I can't even remember now. It's that long ago, but just did some different body works. And then we came up, myself and my husband then, and the 3 kids, we came to Queensland because I couldn't stand the cold weather much. And we'd sort of spent a bit of time up north. So we ended up coming up and coming to live in Queensland, where I still am on the sunny coast. And I was in Eumundi, and I did a few more courses. I did shiatsu, that's what I did. And I eventually took a stall at the Eumundi Markets. Do you remember, you guys, when the Eumundi Markets first opened on a Wednesday, right? That's how long ago it was that I took a stall. And I thought, oh, this is a bit of fun. I'll do this. And there was no vacancy on a Saturday at the time. So I took a Wednesday one to start with. And I started doing shiatsu. And that's acupressure for anyone out there that doesn't know what that is. So the Chinese use acupuncture, so they use needles, and the Japanese use acupressure. So I did that. And after a while, people would come. So they would come to the store. So I had an enclosed area. It was inside in the old hardware store there in the main street. You probably know that, Jeff, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, there. So when old Bobby was running it. And so anyway, I went in there and he said, I've got a small spot for you, Jannine. So I went in there. And then after a while, I can't tell you how long, because I was in the markets for 8 years. And after a while, when someone would come to the it was kind of like a door, but it was just made out of curtains. And then I was looking at them, and then I realized after a little while that I actually knew what was wrong with them before they were telling me. That's really when it really got going. I've done some courses, some diamond structure courses. I'd done Theta healing. I'd done some hypnosis. I did just normal. I think she just was a teacher that had learned it herself. I did all the Reiki levels, you know, lots of different modalities back then. And the diamond structure was very important. I can't even remember its name at the moment. I'll remember that later. And the most important thing was that because in the markets, by that stage, I had 2 days. So I worked on a Wednesday there and I worked on a Saturday there as well in the same area. And if you can imagine people coming, say, every half an hour to have a shiatsu, you know, Japanese acupressure. But what I started to do was read them. because it was fun. There was no one else was doing it. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just literally reading people's energy fields. They would come, I would know what was wrong with them, and then I started to check it. And there's a really good way to check it. When they lie on the table and you know their shoulder sore and you poke it and they say, ouch, you've got it. You know? So I started to know that, you know. And then, you know, I was in there for 8 years. So after some time, then I remember just saying to people when they come, I wouldn't even bother testing them. I'd just say to them, oh, your right shoulder sore and your left hip and your right knee and this, that, and the other. And seriously, I don't know what they thought of me, but they just used to go, yeah. They probably thought I could see it in the way they walk or something. I don't really know. But if you can imagine, I worked in those markets for 8 years, and I did say, who knows how many people. I worked from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. That's 8 straight hours of working with people. Now, let's just say I did 12 a day, which I can tell you it was more. So I did 12 each day. So they'd come in for half an hour. So I was reading at least 24 people every week. And then I actually, without bragging, I just became 110% accurate with it. And sometimes people would even say, I always remember this one guy. And I said, oh, you've had a broken ankle. And he's like, no, I haven't. And he said, I'd remember that. And I'm going, oh, okay, no, but you have. And he goes, no. And then anyway, I learned not to argue with people when you know, you see things or you don't. And so I always remember him because he wanted my card. So I gave him my card, and he rang 2 weeks later and he said, I did break my ankle. I remembered it was on the soccer field, just like you said, you know, so things like that would happen. And I just kept reading people. And like I said, that's how come I got so accurate with it. Now, I used to use other people's modalities at the start. And then after a while, I developed my own modalities. I stayed in those markets for the 8 years. And then I met a woman. She actually lives in England now. And she was English. And she came in, and I also did readings and things for a while as well. But that sort of, I don't know, I didn't really like doing that because people took you too much at face value, what you'd say, you know, and if it was hang on to it, and I wasn't comfortable doing it that way. So I kept reading bodies, as I call it, and you know, I could see spirits, I could see people that passed away. I didn't learn it, they just used to come. And then I had to learn things, you know, you have to, as a healer, learn boundaries, or you get overwhelmed, and you know, the spirits and things would want to come and talk to you all the time. So, you know, I needed to learn boundaries, which I did. All of these things I learned in the markets. And then I had people would ask me if they got a group of people, would I fly down to Sydney and work with them? Because I'd started to change over from doing the shiatsu to doing the healing work. I just used to pull a curtain across because it was, you know, still a bit like that back then. I mean, you know, this has taken a lot. I've been rejected for a lot of years.
Say no more.
What was that?
Say no more.
Yeah, you know exactly what it is. And so, you know, they were hanging garlic up at me and, you know, doing this and that. And anyway, so I started to travel interstate. So people, because it was a market that was very big overseas, especially back in those days, it wasn't so big then. It was much smaller. I got out probably about 2 years after they got really big, because it just wasn't the same. Like lots of things, some things just change and you don't want to be there anymore. So I started traveling Australia, and then what happened was a girl I gave a reading to, and I always remember it because it got me overseas. And I said to her, you're going to meet a lady and she's going to offer you a job. And you're going to go and work for her. And at first, you're not going to really like her. You're not going to think that you're going to get on with this woman, but you will in the end, you know, and you'll actually really like it and you'll stay there. And anyway, about 8 months later, she contacted me and said, I'm working for that woman you told me about. And she said, we bring people from overseas to work over here. Would you like to come over? So this was in Hong Kong she was working. So I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, because I was in for anything. So, so then I started to go to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong, someone else came, and I went to Koh Samui in a big Ayurvedic resort where I worked over there and had Ayurvedic food and treatments for, 2 weeks at a time, which was pretty cool. And they brought, the clients to me. It was a not a rehab center, but a get well center. It was pretty good. And then from there, I went to Singapore. So then, I don't know, I came back to, I was in Australia, but I would just go over there for 6 weeks. I'd do 2 weeks in each country and then come home. And then I did a lot of work around Australia through one of those things. I think it was like called Scoop-On or Groupon, where you did something really to introduce yourself, and then went from there. So I went to every state for a long time, and that's sort of how my career really took off. And then I started to just know different things that weren't what I'd learned, if that makes sense. And so I would work with people, and I first started seeing them. I would see a male and a female standing behind them, and often I'd see like a male person jibber in their ear, and then what the spirit said, the person would talk and say it, and I'd be like, what is going on with this? So I watched it for probably about 6 or 8 months, because I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, and they wouldn't talk much to me, but I could hear what they were saying all the time. So I just watched them. And then one day I realized that they were aspects of the person, because I knew they weren't spirits. You know what I mean? Like, because spirits, they look different. I don't know what you guys are like, but when I see a spirit, I see through them. So they look like you, but I can see the wall through you, if that makes sense. In fact, I very rarely can see them as a whole, except for when my grandfather comes, and then he's not see-through. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally
my whole world doesn't really make sense, but anyway, it's good fun. And so I realized that these parts were aspects, and I explained them like this. So I was working with this diamond structure. I can't remember what its name is. It's actually quite famous. Chiron healing. Have you heard of Chiron healing?
Yeah.
Right? That's what it was. Yeah. I've just remembered. I've still got not the book, but just one of the structures over there. And so that's a big diamond structure, and it's got a lot of lines, and the diamonds get smaller. They start out this big, and then they come into the feeling center, and it's around about that size. But then what I started to notice was that there was lines off those diamonds. And so then these beings that were talking to these people, does this sound totally crazy? When I'm saying it, I'm like, oh my God.
No. I'm with you on the page.
So I would follow them out on the lines energetically, okay? And then so I could cruise out on these diamonds, and I kind of called them, I didn't know anything about computers in those days, but I called it the web, because it was like I was going out on a web, the spider web. I call it like a spider web. And so I'd follow these webs out, and there would be junction points. And then I realized the junction points was actually where something had taken place in the person's life to cause them some form of upset. So each one of these junction points was like a block that was outside in the field rather than in the body. And so at these junction points, if they were ready to move it, I would find one of these beings, a male or female being, and I could have a conversation with them. And then I would bring them back to the person. And then at first I didn't let the person do the work. I would just do it, because I didn't really I've not come across it. And a lot of the stuff I know I did a lot of things in the early days, but what I was learning, I didn't know that anyone else was teaching, and they probably are. I don't know, but this is how I learned it. And so it's kind of like this. I explain it like this. You know, when you decide that you're going to go on a fitness kick, right? And you think, right, I'm going to not eat crappy food. I'm going to throw it all out of the cupboard and the pantry and everything. And on Monday, I always do this, always start on a Monday. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't start on a Friday, but I always start something new on a Monday.
Yeah.
What do you guys do the same?
Yeah, well, you'd have a good weekend and then you think, right, I can start the week afresh.
That's right. It's always like, we're going to start this week afresh. I'm not good at New Year's Eve things. I never do those because I think there's too much energy about that. No one does them, and you get caught up in the collective and you don't do it.
Yeah.
But so getting back to these aspects, I called them parts at the time. And so I say you're doing this, so you've thrown all the food out and everything, and you're going to start on Monday. Monday you wake up and you're all keen to go, right? So one of those parts, the male or the female energy, wants to do it. He or she's like keen, they're going to do this. And then you wake up and it's like, I don't want to do that. It's raining. I'll just have a hot chocolate, but that'll warm me up. You know, I don't really want to. I'll start next week, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so already two aspects have come in, okay? And then the third one comes in the afternoon, right? It says, you've done it again. You've let me down. You said you were going to do it, and look what you're doing. You're just doing the same thing. We just go over and over and over this, right? You know those parts I'm talking about? Everyone
Just a
knows
little.
those parts.
And obviously female, isn't it?
Oh, clearly it was, Jeff. Clearly it was. Well, she gets the idea, and then he tries to carry it out. It's actually him because he doesn't carry it out, you know. Not necessarily. It could be either, Jeff. I'll give you that one. So, so one part gets the idea, okay? That's the part that's closest to the body. So not so far out on these, you know, spider webs. And so it's the one that is egging you on because part of you, you know how part wants to do something and part of you doesn't. That's the argument. It's not really the cricket on Pinocchio that sits on the shoulder, the devil and that. It's not really that. It's actually these parts. And so one part's going, go and exercise, get fit. And the other part's going, oh, just have a hot chocolate and chill, babe, you know, like so. And it just depends which part, i.e., as I know now, whether you got this particular block from your mum or your dad. So if you got it from your mum, it's in your female side, yeah? And if you got it from your dad, it's on your masculine side. So let's just, for Jeffrey's sake, say that the male wanted to do it, right? We'll let him have this one, Andrena.
Just the one.
Only one, but, you know, he's hosting us. You know, what can I say?
Yeah.
So the male, we'll call him Jeff, he wants to get fit, right? And Andrena comes in on Monday and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm having hot chocolate. I am not doing that. I want to stay in bed. It's too cold. And then Jannine, the kid, in the afternoons, like, no way. You guys always do this. You've just mucked it up again. You know, you never do what you're going to say. And anyway, after a while, so then the one to work with, actually in this case, wasn't Jeff. It was actually Andrena and the child part. So the child's got the wound and the part that doesn't want it also has the block. So they both have the block, right? And the other part's just trying to get things done. That's why we're in conflict a lot. Now, once you talk to the female and find out what the emotion, what the underlying emotion was, and then after you do that, so you kind of go down a scale, and then after you do that, you go to the child and you find out when it came in. Okay, and once you find out when it came in, then you can take it out. But when I was doing that work, I can take out some of it. I couldn't take the whole situation out. Does that make sense? So you would have to come back and do another session with me, and we'd have to work on some other component of that. Now, I did that, oh God, I reckon for years I did it that way. Probably 8 years, 8 years. and got, after a while, I realized also that it was much better if I could get the person to do it. So they could hear them. They didn't realize that they were, but they could actually hear them. And so I just got them in a kind of a hypnotic state where they could tune into those parts themselves and get exactly what they needed to clear. Now that recently, was sometime last year, it started coming in, and it was different, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And I have another friend who does similar work, and we communicate, and we were talking about it, and she said that she was working this different way, and I said, oh my God, I'm working that way too, but I don't quite know how to do it. And anyway, she had more of an idea, and now I've just use that, but then now I've developed my own. It's even different again. And this is how, you learn all the time. You're constantly learning and evolving. So, I think it's a great idea that you go off and do courses to get you going, like I teach them. But after a while, it just comes through. And so now I work with the whole scene. So whatever the scene was, I work with the whole scene, and we can completely remove the whole scene. Whereas before you had to do 2 or 3. Now it's a fantastic way of working, and I do trial things on myself because I've got to know how I react so that I can, figure out how other people react. And so I can take out full scenes, but very rarely can I do 2 different things these days, because once you take a full scene out, the person actually doesn't know who they are, because they've carried that, whatever that scene is, around for so many years that it keeps replaying. So what happens with this, the difference with this work, is that before I would work directly with the masculine, the feminine, and the child part, which really in like psychiatry and stuff, it's the ego, the super ego, or whatever they call it, and the child, the wounded child. So it's kind of the same. But with this other work, it's really the part that, like the child part, what happens is something so awful for the child. And it doesn't always mean that it's a completely terrible thing, but it can be just something that's really upset the child. And so what happens is she steps aside, or he steps aside. Okay. And another part comes in and takes over, and that's the part that does the acting up. That's the part that was Andrena on the Monday and didn't want to get up for a hot chocolate. She wanted to have hot chocolate instead of getting up. Does that make sense? So that's the part that steps in. The child part, the part that it happened to, sometimes it's not child, could be adult, but the part that it happened to actually steps out of the body, so it's no longer in connection with. And then it just sits on the side, and it knows nothing else except for what happened to it at that particular time. So it just sits there, and that's all it knows. It can't function, can't do anything, because it was in trauma for whatever reason, whatever happened to it. And so the other part steps in and takes over, and it's usually, going to make sure it's safe. It's just trying to keep the child safe. What I've realized, and I'm still unsure as to if it's all the time, because when I'm working, I just kind of let it flow a bit more, is that part can often be a part that's been in another lifetime that repeated the pattern. So it's like, yeah, I'm here, I'll come and help you, because we work back about 7 generations. So that part will step in, and then after I find it holds an agreement with the child. I just call it a child because most of the time it is a child when it's happened. Most stuff happens under the age of 7, pretty much. Okay. I know we have repeats, and people think, oh yeah, I was 21 when that first happened. And I can tell you it's pretty well not that. It's like 98%. It's under the age of 7. Even though you don't remember, we do when we're working. It comes up, it's in there still. and I have an innate way of triggering that, so that comes up. And so, you know, the part holds a contract or an agreement. Now, if it's holding an agreement, it's strong in the child, in the person. But if they're holding a contract and an agreement, a double whammy, so they've got both things going on, then it's really ingrained. Okay. And so you can imagine once we take that contract out, and then that part or aspect is perfectly happy to go. Doesn't want to stay. It's like, oh, I've done my job. I've protected you, because that's what they're doing from being hurt or whatever it is for all these years. And then they're happy to actually go. And then what happens is the other parts come back in, the other parts of self come back in. And then, sorry about the phone, I'm running it off the phone.
I thought you were near a train station.
Station that I'm not near. But it's just, and I could probably turn it down. I'm not very techy like our friend here, who can go all over the world.
I know.
Stuff. It's not my forte. I just work up there, you know. But that's better. That should not make train sounds. Where are they up to? Okay, so the part will go off, and then it's like the person kind of feels a little bit naked in a way. We'll call it trust. Say you never trusted people, and all of a sudden you do again because I've worked with it, right? And so sometimes they go looking for it because they actually don't know who they are, because they haven't got that part there dictating, and they're like, well, and they go looking for it, you know, well, where is it, you know, where's the part that doesn't trust, you know, and they get a little bit funny about it. So that's why I only ever do one, because to do my friend did several on a lady who was a healer also, and said, I can handle it, and she couldn't. And then she rang up, and then you can put them in crisis. Yeah, I did it to myself just to see what would happen, and you go into crisis. Even me, who knows. You got to test this stuff out. And so that's kind of how I work now. And so, but what happens is it's very fast, you know, to change. The change is instant. I worked with a lady who has my namesake the other day, beautiful woman, and worked with her, and she's completely changed, completely. Even her face changed in front of me, you know, she got color back. She's just beautiful, and she just completely changed after it. And so it takes, you know, probably in the old work, it used to take 4 to 8 days to stop being a bit emotional about it. If I'm talking too much, just let me know, because I'll just
it's fascinating. And for people that don't understand some, you know, ways that how do people work differently, it's another, you know, gets people thinking there's more to this than meets the eye, so to speak.
Oh, was that me or not me? Was that me? I was like freaked out that was going to happen. Okay, so getting back to the part. So what can happen sometimes is they don't know who they are because they've lost that part, and so they look for it. And I, you know, have to say to them, look, you can't speak about it, you can't talk about it. You've got to just let it go, and just whatever comes up, just go, okay, that's done now, and let it go, because they freak out so much they can ask for it to come back because they feel so very different. So
yeah, that makes
kind of makes sense.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Totally with you.
So it makes a lot of difference. In saying all of that, I use a lot of intuition and clairvoyance and stuff with the work, so I can see. So if we're off track, if I'm working with somebody, I mean, I'm, you know, going to be teaching this, you know, over a 6-month period online, actually. But you don't need to have those talents to get it started. I have a way of getting through just using, you know, a script kind of thing that you can follow and test, because I test with kinesiology the whole time. The person's testing themselves. So you can do it without it, but it is much, much better if I can teach, or if people have their intuition and you knowing. I know often when I teach classes, people, they come along and they all want to see, everyone wants to see things, which is great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, that's what we do a lot, isn't it? We see things with our human eyes, and then, when we use our other eye, we can see things. But in all honesty, the number one thing where you're 100% more, 110% accurate is your knowing. When you know something, and it's like you don't necessarily know how you know. I mean, I do. I know because spirits told me, but you don't always know when you first start out how you know, but you know that you know. And you can't deny that one. Because if you see, what it's like, I explain it like this. Someone has a car accident and you get witnesses, right? How different are the witnesses' view of what happened? One will say this happened, and the car came around the corner and this other one did this, and then the other person goes, no, it didn't. This happened. And yet they're all watching the same thing. And it's no different to your third eye, or I see with these eyes anyway. There's a line of energy that comes when I'm reading. You'll see me look off to the side even when I'm talking. Thank you for putting that up. And I'll talk about each one, actually. So this one, I call it intelligent body. Your body knows exactly what it needs to eat and drink, which vitamins and minerals it needs, and we can tap in and find that out. Now, I'm going to teach a little class on this online with this here. And using kinesiology, I'm going to teach you how to tap into yourself, because it's so tricky out there. Someone says, eat meat. Someone else says, don't eat meat. Someone says, eat milk. Then they say, don't eat milk. Then they say, have these vitamins. This is good for you. That's bad for you. Who knows? How tricky is it? Completely tricky, right? So I just use this kinesiology, and I call it intelligent body. And I use kinesiology, and you test your food. Because what's good for Andrena isn't good for Jeff. What's good for Jeff isn't good for me. Yeah. I've even, I even thought, because I'm not a vegetarian. I just eat chicken and fish, and I have, it's about 20 years. So it's a really long time. And then I thought, gee, a couple of vegan friends of mine, they went back to meat, and I thought, maybe I should test myself, to see if I should eat that, because I'm that. If you listen to that book with O and plus and minus, O positive and negative, that book, the blood type book, I'm supposed to be carnivorous, right? But I'm not, because every time I test it, it comes up no all the time. So I don't eat it. And other things that I thought that were good for me, and they're just not. So I do that. Now, these are my sessions. So these are all the things that I work with, doing that talk that I was doing before. This is really cool, Jeff. You're doing a great job there, mate. So these are some of the things that I work with. Anxiety is prevalent in the world at the moment. You guys would see it everywhere, yeah? Thank you. Yeah. And little kids, oh my God, so many kids I'm working with at the moment because of anxiety. And it's not necessarily from them, but the parents often, because they're in anxiety. They don't know what to do. They don't know which way to turn. There's so much confusion. And, we know it's all done on purpose, but it's still a lot of confusion. Relationships are big. I work a lot with that. Trauma. So trauma is where it comes in big time with something, quite bad. It's happened sometimes, car accidents and things like that. Fears of loss. What else have I written up there? Lots of things. I probably have to put these on Sam, hey? Insignificance really big too, because people, feel so unseen, especially, if they're one way or, another in their family, or there's disagreements, lots of that going on. Feelings of unworthiness, and a big one, never heard. They're not heard. They speak up, they're not heard. And I have to say that anything that you can think of, anything that you've got at all, we can change. Absolutely. So they're my individual sessions. I do those from all over the world on this little gadget here called a phone. Work on that through Messenger or, sometimes on Zoom as well. So, or individually, and people come to see me. So they're really cool too. What else was I saying now? Going back to my story. I don't know. Have you got any questions? Or is there any hands up questions that people?
Yeah, I think, right, Andrew says, I think modern humans' teeth are unique because we have both flat and sharp teeth, and thus our diet is our own choice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And what suits one person, I just don't think suits another. And so you have to find out. And the beauty of it is you can get so precise with this that you can find out, like with vitamins and things. So it does several things. Actually, I should talk a bit more about it because it's not just that basic. So you hold whatever the item is in your hand if you have it. So it's good to have your vitamins and things because one vitamin brand might not suit you, but the same vitamin in another brand might suit you. Okay. I took some time before I found the right magnesium for me. I couldn't get the right one, then found it. And then you can be as precise as to ask how many to have a day. And then you can, if you want to be really anal, like I can get sometimes, you might find out exactly one in the morning and one in the afternoon. You can get as precise and as anal, that's what I call myself when I'm doing that, as anal as you want to get, and figure out exactly what you need. And some weeks, as you're testing it, what happens is the energy comes through you. And then you know that it's a yes. And if the energy doesn't come, it's a no. So what it does also is enhances your intuition. And all you're really doing is testing for food. But it enhances your intuition as well. So then you can just, if you're in a supermarket, I do it even in the supermarket. If I'm testing a brand, I do my shopping at the, farmers markets with everything except for some things you still need at the supermarket. And if they're in tins or packets or something like that, I just test it and ask. And if it's okay, I have it. And if it's not, that's okay too. So you might have something for months and then you can't have it. Or you mightn't have something for months and then it says have it, But you start to, that's a really good way, even though it's a food thing and it's practical and it's got practical things that you can do. You don't have to use your intuition, although that comes in. After a while, you're really using it and you can just pick the thing up, or you'll look at your breakfast and you'll go, I can't eat that today. And then if you test it, you're right every time. So it works a good way, Okay, this is for Australians, and this is for the Noosa people, the people on the Sunshine Coast, or Brizzy people if you want to drive up. And this is a class that I'm doing at my friend's, as you can see, most luxurious home. Rather beautiful. And so I'm teaching that. So the intelligent body down the bottom, I'm teaching that class that I was just talking about. I can do that one online. The one above, I haven't figured out how to do online yet. I think I have to use Rooms or something in Zoom, and I haven't figured that out yet. So I still like to do that one in person, not purpose, and on purpose. And so this one's for women, although, men come too, but hardly ever men ever come, mostly just women come. So I did this one specifically for women. So we're doing meditation to connect in with the true self and the feminine spirit as well. And then the meditation, another meditation, so that you can remember and get a feeling of who you really are. And then we practice what we naturally do, which is using our intuition. So I have practical steps to show you how to use your intuition, how to re-tap into it, because let's face it, no one at school is really teaching us that. And so we do psychometry, which is a fun thing, telepathy, which in actual fact, we're moving back towards that, back to telepathy, because we're losing. Some people are a bit scared and they think that they're losing their words, and they're not. We're actually going back to using more telepathy. So it's just getting the brain right, and we lose the words, but there's nothing wrong with us. That the word will come later, but we're actually using telepathy a lot more. So I teach how to enhance that. And then, the big buzzword at the moment is empathic energy, which means feeling. Yeah. And everyone's feeling energy, and there's a lot of energies to feel at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? All kinds of energies, right? And it's a really good idea to learn where they're coming from and whether you need to be still attached to them or not. Yeah. So I teach how to clear those, how to see them. Well, maybe not see them so much, but definitely how to feel them, and then how to clear them, because you need to be able to clear them. And if you guys are okay, we might just, I don't know, towards the end. Oh, how long do we go for, Jeff? We don't care. Okay. Well, in a little minute, when I shut up for 5 seconds, we might be able to do a little thing, and it's very, it's very easy to do. It's pulling out of the collective consciousness. That's very.
Can I just ask you a dumb question?
Yeah, it won't be a dumb question.
Us males, particularly, I'm talking about myself now, going into a major shopping centre, I just can't hack the energetic energy that's coming out of those stores. I just got to get in and I got to get out. And I mean, in Brisbane there, we've got the DFO centre over at Eagle Farm. And so you got the whole centre's got its own music, but every store's got its own music. And you get this constant white noise. And it doesn't make a very pleasant experience to go shopping. And it's a real soup of that, what you call it, empathetic energy. Empathic. Well, I don't think I call it empathic. I don't call it empathic. I'm not calling it empathic.
We just call it shit.
But that's probably why we run out of toilet paper,
Yeah, well, that guy's really rich, whoever invented all that, that nonsense. He's wearing gold.
All right, so how do we overcome that?
But also, Carol asked something about. I saw a message flash. Put my teeth in. Yeah, makes so much sense. So, what can individuals do for themselves to clear these unheard parts?
Ooh.
So
okay. I'll do Jeff's first. I'll go back. Sorry, Andrena, keep going.
No, I was just going to say. So, what tips or techniques that could help, people now that they don't need training, any like little things like the body swaying or whatever. What would you share that could help people?
You ask. Okay. I'll do Jeff's and I'll come back to Carol if that's cool, because Jeff, yours is important, because everybody's feeling these energies, and you're absolutely right. It's not just males, it's females too. I never used to use protection, like I never bothered with it. It was just a different world. Sometimes I'd feel energy, and so I would just clear it. Okay. And so when you go into a shopping centre, this is what I use, and I'm actually really strict on it now, Jeff, for all those reasons you said. You've got the main music, it's a bombardment to the senses. It's actually shocking. And it is, and it shocks the body, and you come out, you're mental in the head, you're like, oh my God, and you lose your energy, don't you? And you feel it draining out of you. Yeah. And I'm sure the audience is the same. And so what I do is, I know people say put an egg around you, but I use mirrors now, and I turn the mirrors that way. And I surround myself in an egg of mirrors so it reflects it back out away from me, because I can't stand it either. So I just say, okay, we're going to the shopping centre, let's shield up now. And I never used to do that. You could handle it, because it wasn't like it is now in overload. We're overloaded with this. We're overloaded, with the towers. We're overloaded with fluorescent lights everywhere. We're overloaded with information. We're overloaded with computers, games, everything we're overloaded with. And so now walking in a shopping centre is 100 times worse than it used to be, or going anywhere really. So
and the cheeky
that
buggers,
is, pardon?
the cheeky buggers are now doing smells. So
Yes.
when you go through the takeaway section, instead of having the exhaust going outside, they put the smells into the food court. So you're walking past. Quite sensory, isn't it?
Yeah, and they do it on purpose. It's like, they've been tricking us all the time, because I can remember, this was me years ago, and I've always been very outspoken. I had my kids with me, and it really started annoying me when they were young. And, you're a young mum and I had 3 kids, and when they got all those lollies at the checkout in the supermarket down low where the kids can get them, how annoying is that, right? And so, don't worry, Carol, I'm coming back to you. And so what I remember one day, I'd had enough, and my son picked up a lolly, and he was only a little boy, so he was picking lots up, and I just let him do it. And the woman at the checkout was glaring at me like I was some sort of moron mother. And I just stood there, and in the end, and I looked at her, because then the other one started looking at me as well. And I just stood there and I said, you people do this on purpose, and I am sick to death of it. I've got 3 kids. It's enough that I have to even come here and shop. So if you're going to put this stuff up from now, and I don't care if my kids throw it all over the floor. And everyone in the line behind me clapped.
Yeah.
They were all mums and dads with kids too. And so people don't want this stuff. And now, Jeff, that was years ago, because they're like 40 now, my kids. And all of this, it's to trick us and to make us, they know everything how to hypnotize us, everything how to take over and take control. And they do it. And they do it with what you just said, the smells coming out, with the, the sensory, with the music, calm music in one place. You feel like saying to some of the young people, I hate that music and I'm leaving a store because of it. But do the shield up, mate. That's what I do, and you don't have to even see it. You just stand there before you go in, and I just go, right, I want to shield up. I want mirrors turned outwards, and I'm going to reflect back every piece of, I call it negative energy, just negative, because you don't mind having the other energy coming in. So I just say, and you reflect back every piece of negative energy that's coming at me. And then I feel better already when I just do that. And so you just do that. And in a little minute, I'll take everyone through that little, it's not even a meditation. It's actually to pull out of the collective conscious, And the more sensitive you are, which we all are these days anyway, because we're overloaded, you see. So we're in overwhelm most of the time. So you clear off. And so if you wanted to write, if people just get a pen and paper, and I'll just give them something else to clear off with. Or maybe can we put it on your site or something, Jeff? Have you got how else could we do it? I haven't got it with me without going into the computer. I didn't think of doing that. I've got a little thing that I say to clear things off I was going to give everybody.
Well, you read it and I type it up.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready?
Dan, hang on, I've got to mute myself, otherwise you're going to hear the typing going through the microphone.
All right, well, you mute
So
yourself.
I've been told by my co-hosts.
Yeah. I can hear tippity tap, 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 tap.
Or trains on phones.
Yeah, we're fine-tuning all the time.
Yeah, well, we're all doing that. I fine-tune myself every damn day.
And I do the mirrors. I always do the, similar thing. Because I can't. Yeah. So it's like, and I have been in shops and I've said, please, could you turn the music down? I want to get some things in here and I can't concentrate. It's so blimmin' loud. And they look at you. And then one guy got really funny with me and I said, don't bother, I'll go somewhere else. Can't be doing with that, I'm afraid. I'm the older brigade. I haven't got the time or the patience.
and we speak up a lot more.
Elder brigade, not older.
Okay, so if you want to type this up, Jeff. So how I say it, and this is to clear other people's energy off you, and especially if you work as a massage therapist or one-on-one. I mean, everyone should do it anyway, but particularly if you're working in people's energy fields, yeah. And this is just a basic thing. It's not the best thing in the world, but it works all the time. If you've got old stuff sitting in there, you have to do more, but this is just day-to-day stuff to clear people's energy. Well done. I like that. Okay, so you just go like this. Mother, Father, God, I command that you pull all the cords from Jeff. We'll just say between Jeff and me. We'll do Jeff and I. So I'll pull all of Jeff's cords from me, send them to the real and true light, because there's lots of false light around now. And so I use that, the real and true light, to be washed and cleaned. And reinserted into Jeff. So he's had his cords out of me, sent to the light, the real and true light, washed clean, because we don't want to put them back dirty, and back into him. And now we take all of my cords from Jeff. You right with that, Jeff? Wash and clean and reinserted into, yeah, that's right, into name. And then you pull, so then I say, and I pull all of my cords from Jeff. Repeat. Send it to the real and true light to be washed and cleaned, and reinserted into me. I probably could have gone in onto my computer, maybe.
Oh, well,
just pop it up, and it should be.
Then people can either take a screenshot or write it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
We got that. Have you got that, Jeff? Yep. Okay, so just remind me, Andrena, to do the one to pull out of collective consciousness. Now, people, you can do that with anyone that you're still thinking of at the end of the day, because if you're still thinking of them, either you've hooked into them or they've hooked into you. Does that make sense? Yeah. And particularly if you work like I only work with 2 people a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And that's not because I need to clear off all day or anything like that, but I just and if I do a back-to-back where I work with one person and then, within an hour I work with someone else, because I have to leave an amount of space. I need usually an hour to an hour and a half, but sometimes I have to leave because I can't stop it. All the cords off me, and send them to the real and true light to be washed and clean and reinserted into yourself. That's it. Perfect. So it's just both ways. And then I pull all the cords for me. Yep. Well done, mate. Awesome. You can be my new secretary. I pay my daughter to do office work, computer work. Some I can do. So if you are thinking of someone, if you don't know, if you get home and you're still thinking of somebody, like I said, either they've hooked in or you've hooked in. And so you need to pull out of them, because then you're carrying their stuff with you. Does that make sense? And what's she saying there? And let's not forget. Oh, we're going to use it. Yeah. I agree, Carol. I fully agree. So, and if you're doing massage or you've liaised with someone, or particularly if you've had some sort of a a heated discussion with someone, then that's just a really good quick thing to pull the cords out. It clears you off. And if everyone just did that every day, you get back to self. Okay, because if you've been around 10 people, I'll tell you what it's like. It's like this. You walk into a room and you felt great, right? And when you walked out of it, you just felt terrible. Okay, you've hooked in. Okay, that's empathic. Or the feeling, it's just feeling energy. Or you might walk into a room and you know something's gone on before you've gotten in there, and then you find out later on there was an argument because you feel the energy, right? And then that hooks in because your spaghettis, as I call them, come from the belly, from the feeling center, and they go out when you walk into a room trying to see where you're going to fit. You know, when you walk into a room and you look around to see which group to go to, that's all done energetically. You're not looking around the room with these eyes. You're looking around the room with your energy to find out who's going to be nice to you and who you're going to like, sort of thing. Because if there's anger in the corner, you're not going to want to go over there. You know what I mean?
No.
Oh, unless you're angry yourself, in which you'll be attracted to that corner, of course. But then that's a completely different thing.
That's another story.
Yeah, that's another story. That's for another night, okay?
Or another show. Yeah.
Oh, I reckon I could probably do 6 months of shows. I'm joking. Anyway, getting back to Carol. So what can people do? For starters, you can do that, Carol. You can start by becoming aware of energies. 2 ways. Doing that, the testing of the food. And what was this? Makes me... Oh, good. It makes so much sense. So what can individuals do for themselves? That's what I'll get onto now. And so you start by becoming aware. Okay, this is without, going and doing a class or anything. Start to become aware. So note how you walk into somewhere. Say you're going, like Jeff, walking into the supermarket and he knows that he just gets bombarded with these energies. So when he comes out, clearing that, like I've just said, will be awesome, especially the shops that you know that you felt yucky energy coming from. You clear it. You just say from that shop, from Myers or Coles or whatever. But you clear out. So if you're going to a friend's place, for instance, the best way is just to feel how you are on entry and then feel how you are on exiting. And once you exit, if you've got stuff or you don't feel the same, it's great if you feel better, of course. But if you don't, then you need to do that, right? Now, what can you do? Okay, so you start to become aware, Carol, and you become aware that way with energies, and then you become aware a different way. People don't like it when I say this, but this is how you figure out what's going on with you and what you need to change. Every single person you come in contact with, you will get energy from, and they are the mirror reflection of yourself in some way, shape, or form. So the best ones are family. They'll really just show you where you're at. Okay. So if you want to know your growth, go and visit your family. And it's not a joke, but it is. Absolutely. So the best way, Carol, is to really start to take notice. So when someone annoys you, or you get really badly annoyed or frustrated or angry, whenever you have a reaction, and that can be a good reaction too, because that means that energy is in you also. So whenever you have a reaction from anybody that you're talking with through the day, take a mental note. And then when you get home, especially if you want to clear something, and so say someone like really annoys you doing what's a good example? Okay, so let's just use this. This was one of the early ones I did. I went into a post office in Melbourne, and it was Christmas time, and there's a lineup like, this many people. Anyway, I used to get really annoyed when people would push in front of other people, including pushing in front of me. And I would always, like say something or whatever. I'm not usually not saying something. But then after I started to become aware, I realized, okay, it's really annoying me. So, Carol, here you go. You turn it around and you ask yourself this question: where do I do that? That's the question. That's how you start to become aware. Okay. So every single person that you come in contact with, when you leave their presence and you're in a different state of energy than what you were when you first got there, then ask yourself, they annoyed the crap out of me. Those people really annoyed me. Why? Turn it around. Find the emotion in the person. Like, what was it you didn't like about them? In that post office that day, it was the fact that he pushed in. And I got outside and I thought, but I don't push in front of people because it actually annoys me. So what is it? And then after I got honest with myself, I realized that I was quite pushy, like with my opinions on people. I would get this great idea. I said it was out of love. So I would get, you're laughing, Jeff, is this you? Or are you just laughing at me because I'm being like this?
Both.
Okay, so you get annoyed. So this is how you do it. So I thought, okay. And you have to get really honest. And this is what I call awareness. People don't really understand what awareness is, okay? Awareness is becoming literally aware of everything that you're doing, everything that's going on around you, every energy that's in the air, everything, okay? And you can start by doing this. So you just say to yourself, okay, I don't push in that line, but I am pushy. So the next question is, where are you pushy? I was pushy with, like, if I read the latest thing and found out that no one should eat sugar, I just told my whole family, you shouldn't be eating that. And I would just drive them insane. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
You might have your own story. What was that, Jeff?
And you pushed in, yeah?
Yeah. And I would just be pushy about it. And I'd say, they'd be eating their chocolate. I'd be going, you shouldn't be eating that, blah, blah, blah. It's not good for you. It does this, 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 this. And I did that for years, and I don't know, that was just one of the early things. Maybe you guys have got something that Come on, Jeff, you were laughing. You must have something like that going on.
No, I'm laughing at you, mate.
Oh, I don't think you were.
No, I was laughing. I was thinking of your kids thinking, Mum.
Oh, yeah, like this, that I drove them crazy. Andrena, have you got something that like recently that annoyed you, that maybe we bring Carol back on and she can type something and I can help show her to show others, if we want to. Carol, you want to do that?
Well, Carol's my sister.
Oh, so she might say something about you.
Yeah. So like when we had lockdown, we triggered each other's big times, but we both knew we were just mirroring back unhealed parts that we had to keep work. We would do an EFT, emotional codes, and all of those sorts of things. So we're very aware that when we trigger each other, but we look at it straight away. Most often we don't let, we have let things fizzled for a bit, but you have to be in integrity and deal with it straight away, and then it's gone. Otherwise, it's festering, it's bubbling away, and then So like for me, I mean, I'm tidy. I like everything neat and tidy, and I find it hard being around people that their way is different to mine, and I've had to really accept, well, that's how they are, but it's not how I am, and I just have to have acceptance, and that could be with many different things. Like, I don't like maybe going into people's houses and seeing the beds unmade. For me, when I go out, I like to do my dishes and make my bed. So when I come back, but that's how I'm. I love to help people declutter. Because I just I can see how people or reorganize things, so it makes it easier for people, rather than people, I can't find this, or where did I put that? So for me, it's like, well, how can I help people be the best version of themselves? So so there could be many things.
Absolutely. So that's all you do. You just look, and I just take it if you're wanting to, because if you love what someone's doing, then you don't want to change that. Sorry. But if you start to take notice of what people are annoying, or what's she right?
She's the opposite.
I think there's a control issue going on, but anyway. So we'll so you just notice, and you have to be really honest, and it's not always the first thing. It's not always the first thing that comes up. You have to go down and figure it out. But I mean, if it keeps on coming up, I always ask God. I'm not a religious person, but I just like that word for some reason. And so I just say, look, or just self. So look, self, show me where that's coming from. That's what you want to ask, because, somewhere, some time ago, whatever, you had an issue, you still have an issue with it, or it wouldn't have annoyed you. And the amount of annoyance is the amount that it's in you. So if it just annoys you a little bit, it can probably stay there, or, it's just a little bit in you. But if it annoys you big time, well, then you need to look at it. Yeah. That's when you need, you really need to look at it. Yeah, it's really big. It means you do it a lot.
Yeah.
That's how you figure it out. It's the amount of annoyance. Okay. I think that's about all. And then, you can start just to become aware of it, and then become aware of when you're doing it, and then ask self where you're coming from. In other words, what you're asking is, you're asking self to show you where that first entered. Yeah. Now, you can do a thing that I really love, Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian way of clearing things. And it goes something like, if people want to write this down, I love you. So you're speaking to yourself. Yeah, you can type it again, Jeff, if you want.
Yeah.
Good job. I've got work to do. I'll be sending it to you. You're coming up this weekend, aren't you? I'll have to we'll go and have a coffee, and I can give you some more work.
Good job. Good job. He's muted a minute.
I think he has on purpose. Okay, so I love you. And then I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you. Done in
I do that I do that in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. I'm over and over again. I love you. I'm sorry. Over and over until eventually I get off to sleep.
Yeah, you might as well, otherwise you're just lying there going mental otherwise. So that is, if you can't do anything else, if you don't know another modality to clear it, and you can't, you just keep asking, show me where this is coming from. Show me where that's it. Perfect. I love you. I'm sorry. You can say those in any order. It can be, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It doesn't matter. It's just a really brilliant way, but just do be aware when you say it, stuff is going to come up. Okay. And so then you have to be aware enough to see what it is. And then you can if we'll just go one more step, and then figure out which parent did it. That would be the next thing, before you need to figure out where it's from. Which parent did it? And I don't want to harp on parents, because, you've got to blame them for all the stuff that that you got from them. You have to blame them for all the good stuff that you got from them too. So there's got to be a two-way. I'm not giving the parents a hard time. I'm one. Yeah. I'm right. Like, okay, we'll clear whatever mean things I did to you. What do you want to clear? Incidentally, you can you should be teaching your kids how to use their intuition. My granddaughter's 14. She does my work I'll work with her, and I'll just, when we go and find the contract, because once you find the contract, you clear the whole scene or the agreement, and I'll just say, okay, where's that coming from? And she just goes, went from there. And I go, where's that from? She goes there. I go, what contract did you make? And she just knows it. And she just clears, bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I started with her when she was 20 months old.
Really?
Yeah. So how we did that was, and this is something for all parents, because the kids will teach you, you know, and in that class, I teach this. So what happened was she was 20 months old, and my daughter wanted to go to New Year's Eve, as she would, because she was young, and I already wasn't and didn't want to go. So I just went and did the 9 o'clock fireworks with my granddaughter. It was the first time she'd seen them. And we got home, and you know, when little kids are too tired and then they want mum, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't, tonight's the night I can't take her home because she's out, you know. So what am I going to do? You know, we're lying in bed and everything, and it was dark. And she's, I want mama, darling, I'm going. And then I'm like, oh, she goes, I just want to see more fireworks. I just want to see more. And so so I said, well, have a look at this. So what's in between your hands? Energy, right? So I pumped up the energy and then just held it up. And of course, she could see it way better than me. And she just loved it. So we did fireworks like this. And that's how I started her keeping her sight. Because you keep it until you're 7, unless grandma teaches you, and then you keep it.
Yeah. If grandma can get there first.
Yeah. If grandma gets there, you're awesome. But with my kids, so I started when my son, he's now 39, I started learning this stuff, and I just taught them as I learned. I had no idea what I was doing. Seriously, I didn't. We could have been on another planet by now, you know, really, because I really had no idea what we were doing. It was all a good learning experience, and they were very gifted. So my oldest one was 10. He does similar work to me. He's a builder as well, but he does similar work to me. Very good on relationships, extremely good. And then my other son, also brilliant. I learned heaps from him because he had incredible sight, incredible clairvoyance and knowing. Amazing. And my daughter is a buzz on past lives. So there you go. And she's 34. So the other son's 37. The oldest one is 39. So as I learned, they learned, but I didn't learn how to clear stuff like I do now back then, you know. So they didn't get that benefit, whereas my granddaughter's getting that benefit as well. And when I teach that class in person, kids 12 and over, I welcome them to come, you know. And she comes then, and then she shows them. It's better coming from her. It's cool when it's a 40-year-old helping you than a grandma.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. Yeah. Higher consciousness. People, I will figure out how to do these rooms and do it online. Or actually, if someone wants to get a group together at their house, I can do the class. You just have to put me on the television, and I'll be the star for the day. And then we can just do it. If you get 6 people together, you can do the class there, and I can see the energy anyway. So there you go. I hadn't thought of doing that.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, brilliant.
I'm talking out of stuff now.
No, it's fabulous. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to share, but you know, you've given lots of information to help people and you know, like more and more people are waking up and wondering what's going on, or why am I feeling this, or I can see something, or you know, all these different little things. So you know, you've given a lot of food for thought for people, and all your details are there so they can connect with you if they so choose, or do one of your lovely workshops.
Well, thank you, Andrena. I do have to do the pulling out of collective consciousness.
Oh, yeah, right. If you'd like to do that now.
Yeah, everyone can do this. So whoever's out there in Radio Land, let's just do this. So feel how you feel right now. Okay, just notice any heaviness or tension or anything like that, or just if today your brain's been mental. I just call it mental these days because of all that energy Jeff was talking about, yeah? So when I see this, if I'm just doing it, I just do it. You don't have to see what I see, but for those that like the description of what's actually going on, above your head there's like a tornado. Now, it's not directly above your head. It's up there, right up. Call it up in the sky, and it starts like a funnel, and then it's really big, and it's right up there, and it's grey-black, yeah? I think MSM is in there. You know, what is it? The news? What do you call them? Mainstream media. That's what's in that funnel, right? And all the nonsense that's going on, and everybody's anxiety and everyone's fear, because it's a collective consciousness. So the main thing that we're being in our collective consciousness at the moment is all those things that I put, you know, there before, the anxiety and the noise in the shops and the constant bombardment of all of these things, and so much fear because no one knows what's going on. Yeah. So that's sitting up there. So if you just close your eyes, see if you can see it. Please don't connect with it, but just see if you can see the tornado up there. And now Jeff doesn't even have to write this because it's just simply a few words. You command, I command. So say this to yourselves or yell it out because Jeff muted everyone probably. So I command that I be pulled from the negative collective consciousness of this planet at this time. So I command to be pulled from the negative collective consciousness at this time. How do you feel? A bit different? Just a bit lighter?
Lighter.
Yeah, lighter. That's we get heavy without knowing it. That's why old people walk around hunched, yeah? Because they got, you know, all this stuff, all this stuff from their life on them. And so we're like, oh, that's better. So you just get lighter. And now when I'm looking, it's a lot further away from me. So if you use your sight, you can see it go. If you're using your feelings or the empath part of yourself, then you feel lighter. Everyone feels that. And if you're using your hearing, you can actually hear it. And if you use your knowing, you just know it's gone. There you go. That's all your triggers. Okay.
Wonderful. Well,
thank you
so much for being our guest this week. It's been absolutely fabulous. And thank you, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you both for having me on. Jeff, you owe me a coffee, mate.
I'll be up your way next week.
That's what I said. When you come up, give me a hoy. All right, everybody. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Okay.
All right. See you same time, same place next week. And thank you to all our listeners.
Thank you.